Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. A question that gets asked so often: how do I know if I'm ready to take Amrit? This blessing of Tan Tan Guru Gobind Singh Ji Sache Paatshah, this ambrosial nectar, this path of giving my head. How do I know if I'm prepared for it? Am I prepared for it? But Pyareo, let's switch this question. Let's discuss how you can prepare yourself to take Amrit. Now, in this video, I'm not going to be discussing why Amrit is important and why it's necessary for a Gursikh and why the Khalsa is important. There are different videos highlighting those topics on our channel. But here, today, let's discuss if you've made up your mind, you are ready, you're wanting to walk this path, but then you're not sure if you're prepared. How can you prepare yourself? What are some things that you need to make sure are in your life available to you so that you can be confident when you walk this path towards Guru Sahib? So Pyareo, sab to vaddi gall eh hai, when we walk this path, this is not just a stamp. Amrit is not a stamp. Okay, I'm Amritari now. It's not a stamp. It's not something that you can just glorify to your friends. What it is entrance, admission to an army. And just like when you sign up for any army, any force, there are codes of conducts to live by. There are rules. And in fact, you're not even considered a civilian anymore. Let's keep that in mind. Let me repeat that. You're not considered a civilian anymore. And a Khalsa, when someone has given their head to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they are not a civilian anymore. And when somebody might think, well, yeah, you can take Amrit, but you can do all of these other things. No, there are certain things that a Khalsa cannot do and a certain thing Khalsa must do. So this code of conduct, the way you live by your entire life is transformed. When you give your head, it's not that you are still who you are. You've given your head, you're not yourself anymore. Literally with your head comes your thoughts, it even comes your past, it comes your identity. So who you are, who your parents are, who your friends are, what you associate, what you identify yourself as, what you have been identified with in the past, what your friends thought of you, all of that goes. Your caste, everything is gone. You are not that same person anymore. And in fact, in older traditions of Amrit Sanchar, in the ceremony of Amrit, you would actually be given a new name then. Nowadays, we don't do that. This concept has been lost. But what would happen is if your name is, let's just say, for example, is Jasprit, that name is still Gurmat Anusar. So today, Gursikh say your name is Gurmat Anusar, so you would keep that name. But if a name, let's say, for example, your name is Johnson, and you went to take Amrit, there, a hukamnama would be taken, and based on that hukamnama, the Panj Pyare would either decide they would just give you a name, and that would be your name from then on, or they would give you the letter, and the Gursikhs and the Sangat or yourself would decide what name you would adorn. But it has to be a Gurmat Anusar name, meaning a name that aligns with Gursikhi, because the name that you adorn, that's what you identify yourself with. So if your name is Jasprit, meaning Ras, Jas meaning the nectar, the experience, being imbued in the love, Preet meaning love, in being imbued in that nectar of God's love. That's what Jasprit means, in singing God's praises, imbued in love with singing God's praises, singing the praise of God. Or if your name is Harpreet, Har means the one that destroys all vices, all difficulties, Harnawala, meaning referring to God, Hari. Preet meaning love, meaning that you are somebody that's completely in love with God. In this same way, if your name is something that's more on the warrior side, it could be Harbir Singh. And Har meaning God, referring to the creator Akal Purkh, and Abir meaning warrior. You are a warrior with these qualities of God. And these names, you can do katha, you can do discourse on the meanings of these names. But when we want to walk this path, what I'm trying to say is all your past is gone behind. Your parents are now Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Mata Sahib Kaur Ji. You are part of the Khalsa Panth. Your last name is now Singh and Kaur. You are not a resident of Canada or India or Punjab or England. None of that matters anymore. You are a resident of Anandpur Sahib. You live in Kesgarh Sahib. That is your house now. So in this way, everything that you identify as this is who you are, all of that goes away. Your mission in life changes. So the first thing is how to grow this desire. How can you really prepare for taking Amrit? There's only one main thing, Pyareo, and that's if you absolutely desire it when everything else in this world means nothing to you. You don't find any flavor or ras in anything else in the world. And this is exactly what we speak about in Katha when we say detach yourself. When we say realize what the difference between what is true in the world, what is false in the world. And this is found by reading Gurbani, by understanding Gurbani. And through this wisdom that wells up in your mind when it's elevated, you look around in your life practically and you see, well, nothing's going to come out of that. Well, why go after that? Why do I care about people's opinions? Why are people chasing money? I don't find value in that stuff anymore, even though you might accumulate it and you're living your life, but you're living your life in a much higher perspective. You are chasing after God's love. And this desire, this love, this detachment from the world to the extent where all other flavors of the world become tasteless to you and you just desire this one ras, just like a rain bird. A rain bird is desiring that one drop of water, the one raindrop, and is crying out in that love. So Pyareo, sometimes it can feel to you that, well, I'm not at that stage, but if you begin walking this path and you begin doing seva, you begin reading Gurbani, understanding Gurbani, and surround yourself with these people that are vibrating in God's name, you can begin to feel it as well. So start walking this path. This is how you can prepare for it. And another thing that we read in Gurbani, Sun Sakhi Man Jap Pyar. We also read Tina Dekh Man Chao Uthanda. How do you grow your love? These two ways that Guru Sahib explains. Number one is when you listen to this history, when you listen to the Sakhi and the teachings of Guru Sahib, what happens is all of these concepts, they might seem philosophical at first when you're just hearing what Sikhi believes and what are the Sikhi doctrines. But then when you see that practical through the lives of Gursikhs, through the lives of Guru Sahibs themselves, that history, it makes all of these concepts practical and relevant to you. You know how to implement them. You can put yourself in those shoes and say, wow, this is what I should do in these types of situations. It makes Sikhi alive for you. You become a part of that liveliness. And along with this, you also need to know who you're giving your head to. If you don't even know Guru Nanak Dev Ji, you don't even know Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the history associated with it, then how do you know which Guru you're giving your head to? So that's why sometimes it feels like Amrit, why is it necessary? When you read the lives and the beauty of these Gursikhs, you know exactly why. So Khair Pyareo, when we're looking at that and the history of Guru Sahibs, when we read the history of saints, it hits you in a different way because maybe it's more modern day. It might seem more relevant to you. The other thing is, how have they practically lived their life in love of God? Guru Sahib themselves is the form of Akal Purkh, but then when you read the lives of these Gursikhs, these Shaheed Singhs and Singhaniya, how they sacrificed everything, that fills you with this loving spirit, this warrior spirit, this determination, this courage to basically take control of your life, remove the shackles of all your attachments and things that are holding you back, and dive into this love, dive into the deep end, completely immerse yourself. The history of these Guru Sikhs allows you to be able to do that. it gives you direction. They become your role models. And that's another very important thing that you need to prepare. You need to have the right role models. If your role models are modern day singers, modern day actors, somebody that's materialistic, somebody that's lost in life themselves, they're completely, living in the illusion of this world, and then you make them your role model, guess what? It's a blind person leading a blind person now. An andha is leading an andha, meaning a blind person, and both of them are just going to completely go off the road because they don't know how to steer themselves. They have no sight. But an enlightened person, a saint, a Gursikh, these people that have lived their lives in this way, make them your role models. Make them your inspiration. And then you can also walk this path in their footsteps. Sant ki gail na chhodiye. Marag laga pao, that sant ki gail, which means the footsteps or the tracks that are left in this mud. And when you want to walk this path and you see that's a very difficult, muddy path, where there's a trail already, you would ride your bike or you would walk through that step. Just like if there's snow, if somebody's already walked through that snow, the snow has been compressed and it makes it easier for you to follow those footsteps. Just in the same way, follow the footsteps of these Gursikhs, and it makes your path a lot easier and it helps you understand what you need to do in the future. And when we do this, the lives of the Shaheed Singhs, that blood that they spilled, that blood begins to run through your veins. They become your family. You become somebody that desires to become the next Shaheed singer, Singhani. That's what it means to give your head. Mentally, physically, spiritually, all of these things, you have to literally destroy your ego. And then alongside of this, when we speak about Amrit, it's not just associated with the physical elements of being an army and a code of conduct, and it's a initiation into a certain lifestyle. These things are definitely there, but one great element is the spiritual element of it, is how this Amrit is able to completely destroy all of these forne, all of these thoughts, and bring out this nectar, bring out this immortality, God's light that's already inside of you, and with Guru Sahib's blessings you become one. That's what giving your head. It's a spiritual aspect, and to prepare yourself for that, what you do is the train of thought that you have. A lot of times we think in a certain pathway. We think in a certain way based on how our family thinks, based on how our friends think. So we end up thinking the same way. Based on the things that you hear, based on the things that you look at, the news that you watch, you end up panicking, or you have the same type of worldview as you've been fed. But when we read the writings of these saints, one thing is the history. That gives you inspiration. That makes you fall in love. That makes you look at these Gursikhs and say, wow, I wish I could become like them. That's inspiration. That's beautiful. But then on the spiritual aspect as well, when you read the writings of great saints, maybe like by Veer Singh or other great writers, by Rantir Singh, Sant Gyani Gurbachan Singh Ji Khalsa, these are modern day, but somebody maybe even in the past. When we walk this path, when they write something, that writing is expressed as an expression of their spiritual avastha, their spiritual state of mind. When they do a bias, one thing is when you're speaking to somebody off the street maybe and you're speaking to their level, but when these Gursikhs are actually writing their their journeys on these pieces of paper, they're actually living in that avastha, and they're writing down exactly what they're experiencing and they're seeing. And when you read that, what you're doing is you're jumping to that state of mind. And you can sometimes, if you read it, it may not make sense to you, but the more you read it, that writing is literally an expression of what that avastha already is. You're reaching the highest avastha of these saints just by reading their writings. It's absolutely necessary, important for you to read these writings to make sense of what you're about to walk into and what you're trying to reach, what your goals are. Now along with these things, with this desire, with this love, automatically you'll be chasing after, you'll be running after. Once you go through these Shaheed Singh's lives, Gursikh's lives, Guru's lives, the writings of these great saints, when they talk about Naam Abhyas and what they did and how they reached their certain stage or what their experiences are. Especially when you have your own mentor. When you have your own mentor, sometimes through this video you might be confused and like, how can I do this, or some certain issues that you're facing which are specific to you. You need someone to guide you. That's why physically have somebody that's a guide who's you look up to as a great Gursikh, who somebody can become your mentor and guide you along the little paths that you can go to even after you've taken Amrit. Because just once you've taken Amrit, that doesn't mean that, it's a direct ticket to, Sachkhand. That's not what it means. This is the start of a path. And as you're walking, you're going to be faced with so many difficulties after you take Amrit. So don't think, I'm not prepared, I haven't done this and this. No, you're able to do it afterwards. You're able to grow, but you just need to be prepared to be able to walk this path. And that guidance of somebody that you look up to, and even though some things might not make sense to you, but their word, their guidance is enough for you. That type of person you need to bring into your life. And you can search for this, you can ask people, you can, as you walk this path and you go into Sangat, you'll encounter these types of people. And that true desire inside of your heart to be reading Gurbani, koi aan malave, mera pritam pyara hun tis pe aap vijai. I sell myself for that person who comes and teaches me how to walk this path. Someone who guides me on how to meet Paramatma, how to meet God. So that's why let's look at some practical things now that you need to do in order to prepare yourself. Practically, the codes of conduct of Gursikhs is making sure you read the Panj Baniya in the morning, and we read Rahra Sahib and read Kirtan Sohila before you go to sleep. Your Nitnem is very, very important. Your Nitnem, your daily prayers. Imagine Guru Gobind Singh Ji came up to you and said, make sure you do this one thing every day for the rest of your life. That probably means it's pretty important. And make sure prior to taking Amrit, as soon as you desire reading Gurbani, anyone can read Gurbani. There's no limitation that you have to take Amrit to read Gurbani. You start reading your Nitnem now. You start listening to it. Make a habit of it. I know sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes it becomes, you're reading Japji Sahib, you finally finish it, and then you think, oh my God, Jap Sahib, this is like, you just thought you reached the peak of the mountain, then after you go over the ledge, you see how big the mountain is. It seems impossible. But it's not impossible. Step by step, start by reading 10 paudiyaan of Japji Sahib, then 20, then go to 30, and then complete it, and then go into Jap Sahib. Make it a routine. Actually take out time, wake up half an hour earlier rather than saying it's just part of your get ready routine. Actually go and take out half an hour, 45 minutes in the morning to read Gurbani, where nothing else can interfere during that time. That is your Gurbani time. You have to specifically take it out in your schedule to be able to do it. I know sometimes it seems difficult, but when you start doing it, it becomes a habit. And along with Nitnem, you have to be able to start trying to learn how to read Gurmukhi. I know a lot of Gursikhs that sometimes it wasn't a habit before them, but they were so determined that they took Amrit and they made it a routine right away, and then they learned Gurmukhi. They learned how to read the script of Gurbani very fast, maybe in a few days. In fact, there was this one friend of mine on a flight from Canada to California. It was maybe like a 3.5 hour flight. In those 3.5 hours, I was able to teach him all of Gurmukhi script, the entire alphabet, and how to put letters together in 3.5 hours in a plane ride. When he arrived to California, when he saw Gurmukhi being written on a screen or on a piece of paper anywhere, he would be able to start figuring out how to pronounce, and he was beginning to actually read it very slowly. So what I'm trying to say, it's not difficult. Guru Angad Dev Ji actually formatted this Gurmukhi script of Uda, Ada, Idi and put it in this and began teaching it because it was so easy to learn, because maybe Urdu, maybe Farsi, Sanskrit, these languages take lifetimes to master, but this is something that everybody can learn. It's very easy. So that's why don't get disheartened by it. Take the steps. There are playlists on YouTube. You can learn this on YouTube. You can learn it by going to a friend. Anyone that reads Gurbani, they should be able to teach you Gurmukhi script. It's not difficult at all, so don't get overwhelmed by it. So reading Gurmukhi, doing your nitnem, making it a habit, and along with this, things that motivate you to read your Gurbani every day is your environment. Who are your friends? So a lot of times we are surrounded by negative influence before, maybe, friends that are doing drugs, drinking alcohol, slandering, cutting their hair, kind of have a lusty or sexual conversations all the time, and their mentality is kind of orientated towards looking at other people's bodies. But you want to move away from this environment, and this is a sacrifice that you're going to have to be prepared to make. You can still love everybody, associate and inspire other people, but you have to be able to, just like you plant a seed, you take care of yourself. You have to be able to take care of yourself and nurture yourself, nurture your mind, so that that seed, it has the right environment, that fertilized soil, it has the water, it has the sunlight, the guidance. And as that seed grows, eventually it'll turn into a tree, and then eventually when you become that state of mind like a saint, you're not affected by things anymore. That tree is not affected by little critters or insects or any of these things, but at the moment you might feel like you're a seed. So in this state of a seed, you need to make sure your environment is positive. This is why Sangat, especially at the beginning when you're coming into Gursikhi, when you've just taken Amrit, sometimes you go into this like immediate high that you think you've reached everything, and so you have to be careful of your ego as well. You think that I've taken Amrit and now that's it, I've reached it all, but it's very subtle and it doesn't last. It might come into a little bit of a high, and then eventually you level out a little bit, and you kind of see life from a bigger, more experienced Gursikh perspective, and you become more open. But immediately your environment is very important, because what happens is sometimes you might be trying to escape from drugs or these things, and in life, because of stress, those were your drugs, these things were your escape route to kind of go into that, and these things might have become habits. What happens is when you face stress in life again, even after you've taken Amrit, maybe it's from your family or workplace, or financially you have a lot of stress, your mind will automatically want to run towards those other things. You might want to go back to doing drugs, even though you know it's wrong and you don't know why you're doing it. You might run back towards pornography. You might run off back towards these other things. You have to be very careful. Make sure you have this environment around you, these Gursikhs that can help you and guide you along this path. These people that are inspiring you, these people that are kind of like helping you carry or take these initial steps towards becoming strong and having a solid foundation yourself. So that's why your environment and your Sangat is absolutely vital. We read in Gurbani that when you come into Sangat, Saad Sangat ke asre prabh syon rang laaye, you fall in love and you begin to experience these things through the blessings, through the grace of this of the Sangat, through their support. So with the physical people and your surrounding, make sure your family, or if you're married, your spouse, your children, your environment, they are prepared to support you in this way. And here's one thing I want to add: it becomes smoother if they're prepared to help you or maybe even join you on it. But your path is your path, and nobody in the end is going to go with you. Make sure you're able to detach from people and their opinions in that sort of way, and completely give your head. So once you give your head, there's no looking back. But keep in mind that nobody's going to go with you in the end. But when people are there to support you, whether it's your family, your mother, your father, maybe your work environment, it becomes a lot easier. So either just be aware of what you are going to be facing, and are you ready to take that on, and how can you prepare yourself to take that on. Replace your songs that you listen to replace them with kirtan. That's very important. So cut out all of the worldly talks and the nonsense and things that might be distracting you, that are very faithless. Replace that with constant kirtan. Especially at the beginning, you want to basically do as much abhyas, meditation, as you can by constantly listening to kirtan all day. And then katha is very important. What kirtan does, it helps you fall in love and put your mind into that wavelength of through that emotion. It makes you fall in love with Gurbani. But what katha does is it ingrains that philosophy in your mind. That philosophy that you don't face doubt. You might question your Sikhi, you might question yourself, you might question your experiences. Why am I not experiencing this? Why am I doing this? And this katha will help you guide that path. So kirtan and katha go simultaneously with each other. So make sure you implement these of listening to kirtan and katha every day. Alongside this, before you're preparing yourself to take Amrit, make sure you develop the qualities of a Khalsa. Making sure you're full of compassion, making sure you're able to control your anger, you have courage and determination. These qualities. We actually did a playlist of the qualities of the names of all the Panj Pyare, the 5 beloved ones that are giving you this Amrit: Daya, Taram, Himmat, Mokam, and Sahib. The qualities of a Khalsa, you can search this on our channel. You can listen to Katha in depth of what the 10 qualities of a Khalsa are, and what lifestyle Gursikh is meant to be, and what their kind of responsibilities are to the rest of the world. What is their mission in life? And then alongside this, like I said before, you want to be implementing the ways that you eat, because there are 4 bajr kreta that you don't want to fall into. That's hukka, hiyamat, halal, haram. Cutting hair, eating halal meat and stuff like that, and then premarital sexual relationships or any sort of relationships prior to marriage, and then intoxicants including alcohol and stuff like that. So when we focus on these things you want to avoid, sometimes you have habits that might be leading you towards that way, and sometimes you find it difficult. Make sure you find that surrounding, or you find the reasoning, convince your mind, and then discipline yourself in those same eating habits, avoiding those vices of watching pornography, going after lust, the constant thing of feeling I feel lonely, so I need to always go on Tinder or maybe dating apps or message people on Instagram and Facebook. There's a certain lifestyle that is expected by the Gursikh to live by. And then the guide, the mentor, these Gurusikhs that you surround yourself with, they'll help you make sure you are on this path. And if you fall off this path, that somebody is able to take out their time and pull you back onto this. First of all, you need to be willing to be able to walk this path. Have that desire. If you have that desire, all of these other things will fall into place. That's why learn about Sikhi. The biggest thing is just learn more and more and more. But then just learning itself doesn't mean anything if you're not making it practical. You're not following this love. Grow your love to the extent, and sometimes you just have to jump into the end. Sometimes you have to do it even if it may or may not make sense. So Pyareo, Guru's love is like an ocean. You swim in and you become a part of it. This path is becoming one with Guru Sahib, merging with the Guru, and these blessings through this Guru of Amrit, Sur Nar Murnan Amrit Khoj De. Even the heavens in their angels, they're all desiring this Amrit. Pyareo, if you have this opportunity, don't let it go. So inniyan bentiyan parvan karniyan. While speaking, while talking, I've probably missed out on a lot of things, and if I've said anything wrong or hurt anybody's heart, please forgive me. Sari sangat fateh parwan karni ji. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.